wondered why some relationships seem a constant battleground while others are eerily silent. It's not random. It often boils down to two common coping styles that many of us unknowingly adopt. The first is conflict avoidance, where one might bury their feelings, becoming a ticking time bomb of emotions. The second is emotional regulation, a struggle where anger or anxiety might flare up unexpectedly. Do any of these sound familiar? Maybe they remind you of someone you know, or perhaps they hit a little closer to home. Well, let's dive into the heart of these two common relationship issues and their solutions. Imagine Jim, a person who avoids conflict at all costs. Jim is like a pressure cooker, keeping his feelings and emotions tightly sealed within him. He's learned to cope this way, maybe due to a challenging childhood, where it was safer to lay low and avoid attracting attention. This approach comes with its own set of problems. See, when Jim continuously suppresses his feelings, he's not really avoiding conflict. Instead, he's just postponing it, letting it simmer until it reaches a boiling point. When that happens, it's not just a little steam we're talking about. It's an explosion of pent-up emotions that can leave Jim and those around him feeling bewildered and hurt. There's a way out of this cycle for Jim. He needs to understand that his fears of criticism, rejection, and abuse are not inevitable outcomes of expressing his feelings. He needs to learn to speak up, to assert his needs, his wants. This doesn't mean he needs to be aggressive or confrontational, but rather he needs to communicate effectively. By speaking up and expressing his needs, Jim can start to break free from the cycle of conflict avoidance. Now, let's switch gears and meet Claire, who struggles with emotional regulation. Claire's emotions are like a matchstick, ready to flare up at a moment's notice, often driven by underlying anxiety. This emotional volatility can create a whirlwind of chaos in her relationships, making it difficult for both Claire and those around her. However, there's a silver lining to this seemingly stormy emotional landscape. Claire's anger, like a compass needle, can point towards deeper underlying issues that need to be addressed. It's an informer rather than an instigator. To navigate this emotional terrain, Claire needs to become an early warning system for her emotions. By tracking her emotional shifts and catching them early on, she can lower the temperature of her reactions, cooling down her anger and anxiety before they reach a boiling point. This isn't about suppressing emotions, but rather about understanding them, managing them, and using them as insightful tools. Claire's anger, when viewed from this perspective, becomes an ally, a signal that there's something that needs her attention. By taking responsibility for her emotions, Claire can start to smooth out her emotional roller coaster. So, what happens when Jim and Claire find themselves in a relationship? Well, their distinct coping styles may initially draw them together, forming a seemingly perfect pair. Yet, as time passes, these very same traits can create a minefield of conflicts. These challenges don't necessarily spell doom, however. The couple has a choice. They can decide to carry these patterns into future relationships, or they can choose growth. They can work on their individual issues, with Jim learning to voice his feelings and Claire managing her emotions. Remember, the key to resolving these common relationship problems lies in understanding and addressing our own coping styles. So, which one are you, a Jim or a Claire?